How is voice AI reshaping customer experiences? And why is it that now is the right moment to take it seriously? Well, in today's episode, I'm going to sit down with a good friend of the show. Her name's Sam Richardson. She's from a company called Twilio. It's always a pleasure to have her on here. And together, we're going to unpack the fast-moving world of voice AI and try and understand what it means for brands that are trying to balance automation with authenticity. And Sam's insights stem from her front row at Twilio, where she leads executive engagement with some of the world's most customer-obsessed brands. And together, we will dive into why voice is making a comeback. Not because it's nostalgic, but because the tech has finally caught up. With friction disappearing and customers still valuing that natural simplicity of a conversation, voice AI is evolving into a key differentiator in customer service. But as Sam will point out, there is a fine line between fast and impersonal. And the companies that ignore the human touch points in the name of efficiency, they do run the risk of losing more than they gain. But Sam will guide us through this journey and also share how to avoid falling into that infamous trap, the reality privileged, where only top-tier customers get meaningful support, and talk about some of the tools that are available to integrate voice AI without needing a full tech overhaul. Yeah, we're going to bust a few myths today too. So whether it is plugging it into legacy infrastructure via APIs or choosing voice partners that understand your industry's nuances, I think it's clear that the smartest strategies are both practical and flexible. So the big question, how do you design AI experiences that feel human, scalable, and genuinely useful? And it's on that note that I'm going to officially introduce you to today's guest. So a massive warm welcome back to the show. Anyone that missed our last conversation, can you just remind them with a little about who you are and what you do?
So lovely to be back again. Nice to see you again, Neil. So I am Sam Richardson. I'm Director of Exec Engagement at Twilio. What that means is I look after the relationships with our top customers, which is a fantastic role to have. Twilio itself is a really interesting company. You're probably using Twilio every day and you don't even realize it. You know, think about all the deliveries you have for food or the cars you order, for lift shares. That at some point probably would have touched Twilio. We don't just do all the great communications. We also have fantastic, we call it customer experience as a service. So that is really all about pulling in that fantastic data through our CDP platform, using that in a brilliant unified profile so that all of the communications that you get, whether that be through a voice AI agent, whether that be through messaging or through a human agent, is personalized and contextual. So we kind of pull all of that together to really improve the way that brands can communicate with their customers. And we don't just do it with customers directly, but we also do it. We have a lot of customers in the ISV space. So lots of brands that you work with will probably be using us too, which is why I'm confident that most people will touch Twilio every day.
Well, thank you so much for coming back. I think particularly last time we spoke, it was around AI. AI is maturing and we're hearing more and more about it. This year's all about agentic AI and agents. But I think more than anything, when we're talking about AI now, it's being mentioned in the same sentence as customer experiences. So why do you think the customer service and customer experience has become the most important part of brand reputation in today's digital first world, and the role of AI and all that? Because it seems to be so much going on and everyone's talking about right now.
There is so much going on, and I think that there are a few reasons for that, right? I think first of all, that as always, there's a cost incentive. So people are looking at AI as a way to reduce some of that burden of, I don't want to call it unwanted contact, because there's always a need. If somebody's contacting, there's a customer need there. But we know there's always been high volumes of transactional queries that don't necessarily need that human touch to deal with. I mean, I was working in contact centers for a long, long time before I joined Twilio. And there's always been that need to reduce and increase the efficiency. So I think that's a brilliant way for AI to take care of that, really reducing some of that load. I think it's also great for customers, right? Because what we want as customers is a quicker resolution. All we are ever looking for really is our problem to be solved. We've got to, whether it's something that we're buying, an issue we've got with a brand, where's my order, whatever it might be, we're always looking for issue resolution. And I think it's also great at doing that because nobody wants to hold on for 20 minutes to speak to a human to find out where your order is when actually an AI bot could have done that for you. So I think those are the two as well. And I think as well, what we're seeing, particularly what we're seeing at Twilio, is this use of AI for personalization. Now, we know that a personal interaction makes a significant difference in terms of likelihood to spend and in terms of the overall customer experience. And again, what we're seeing is it being used being used in personalization so that interaction, the information that's fed into it, is really enhancing the customer experience. So I think across the board, we're seeing ways that AI is enhancing customer experience. So that's why I think it's taken a bit of time for people to work out what the use cases are. And now they're like, oh, actually, here, efficiency, improved experience, and increased spend are the ways that we're quite clearly seeing AI being used to improve customer experience. So I think for me, that's kind of those 3 points are where it's hitting best.
Yeah, I do think we're starting to see that light bulb moment as everyone just kind of gets it. And another area, of course, is voice AI, often seen as old tech compared to chat or text-based tools. But especially, I think, if we look at Siri and Amazon Echo in its current format, it's a little bit clunky, there's a bit of a too much delay. But when you compare that with OpenAI's voice tech, it's completely different. In fact, I was asking a guy a few days ago how he self-educates, and he had a 3-hour road trip of him just talking to OpenAI, and that was teaching him things while he was driving. But I'm curious, from your side, why do you believe it's now gaining renewed relevance for things like customer engagement?
I mean, in part, I wonder if kind of we've always preferred to talk, right?
Yeah,
we always have. Only there's been so much friction involved in that I think now the friction is removed because we can access it more readily. And like you said, the tech in the actual architecture and the tech itself has got so good that it's frictionless, it's not problematic, and we can have really great conversations with it. So I think it's just about that tech maturity. I mean, we were doing, projects years ago around voice and voice AI because it was clear that this was going to just increase in momentum and increase in its capability as well. So I think it's another one of those things that's hit the right time. People, I remember years ago, and for years, people have always, whenever you do a survey, how do you prefer to contact a brand and things like that, people do prefer that voice. It's easy, we can do it on the go, we can walk, we can, it fits into our lifestyle. But it's been problematic and there's been a lot of friction involved with it, and the handling of all that has been sort of full of cost and friction and unsatisfactory outcomes, let's put it that way. But I think now the technology's so advanced and probably will continue to advance that it's easy. And let's face it, we will always take the path of least resistance. That's what humans do. And I think that's why we've got to this stage now where the tech is so rich in capability that's why we're seeing such a boom in it. It's easy. It's become easy, I think.
Yeah, it really has. And another guest I was talking to recently, again, that same question about how do you self-educate, he was having a bit of back and forth with ChatGPT, doing deep research, and got in so much content at a master's level on a particular high level topic. And it went away, thought about it, bit of back and forth. He ended up with 3 hours worth of material. He turned that into a PDF document, then uploaded it to something called Speechify, and then just goes out on a hike for 3 hours with it talking to him and explaining everything, so he's able to learn. So there's so many opportunities around voice that we're probably not even aware of yet, right?
I think it's the tip of the iceberg. That's a really I'm going to start doing that, because that's really useful to be able to do that. Speechify, I'm making a note of, because that sounds like a great tool. But yeah, I mean, the same even in everyday life, right? At the touch of a fingertip, the amount of deep research. I use Perplexity for so many things now.
Yeah.
Because it's validated, you know where it's come from. It's great. And we're really seeing, I think, you and I spoke a year ago, and things have really moved on a pace since then. And I think what the difference now is that we've got to grips with some of these, and we understand how it can augment what we do and how we can use it not to replace, but to really enhance what we do, just like you described, right?
Yeah.
It's that's a really nice use case. And we see this with the brands we work with at Twilio, right? People are just experimenting in all sorts of different ways. Now they've understood it, they've got to grips with it. To a certain extent, it's taken this time for organizations to go through kind of that legal and the data security and privacy and say, okay, well, these are the validated tools. Here's how you can use them. Now go use them. And we see all sorts of invention coming up with them within Twilio, within our customers, within everyday life. I think it's now we're hitting our stride a bit with it, aren't we?
We really are. And I think as many brands race to automate just about everything, I think when we're talking about customer service and customer experience, many struggle to get that fine balance right between speed and empathy. So where do you see companies stumbling when it comes to implementing AI in service channels, but maybe forgetting the human element? Because that's the most important ingredient, isn't it?
It is the most important ingredient. It is to have a human there where you need it.
Yeah.
I think it's the same as we've seen with, remember how excited we got about chatbots? And I think that we talked about this before, but then people thought it was the answer to everything.
Yeah.
And we ended up with all those sort of terrible customer flows and in cul-de-sacs we couldn't get out of and not being able to speak to a human. I still see some of those, by the way, where organizations have decided to remove all form of contact, and they make it really hard for you to find a way to contact a human. That's never going to work. I think that, again, brands have to come at it from that point of how are we going to smartly map out what this customer journey and experience looks like, and still stick to the same principles. Make sure that when somebody needs to speak to a human, they can. Make sure, actually, we did our state of customer engagement report has just come out, and it's interesting because around just over 50% of people want to know that they're talking to a bot, which means 50% don't. They're not bothered about it. They don't need to know. It's more or less, it's 54%. So a high percentage of people they're not that bothered. They just want the contact resolved. But it's really important to give those drop-off points and not build too much resistance when somebody is saying, I want to speak to a human. I think what we're seeing is voice AI get smarter and smarter and smarter, so it can handle more, because that's the other thing, right? Isn't it? It will keep the best bots will keep learning and will keep getting smarter and smarter anyway, so they'll be able to handle more. But I think it is just the good old-fashioned principles of understanding where your failure points are, understanding why customers are contacting you, what they need to, and then really implementing solid customer journeys around that. Nothing's changed in that respect. It's just the tools have got so much better for us to handle these queries.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And your research also suggests that consumers are happy with AI for basic tasks, and no surprises there. We don't care how a problem gets fixed. We just want it to go away. But we do want a human for complex issues, or when we do often go rogue by daring to go off script. But I've got to ask, what are some of the clear indicators that a conversation should actually shift from voice AI to a live agent? Anything you can share around that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything solid, but it's kind of instinct and experience would tell me that, first of all, if somebody is just saying, I need to speak to a human, having that recognizing that, don't fight it, because there's nothing more frustrating when somebody fights it.
Yeah.
If you need to speak to a human, you need to speak to a human. So I think that that's one point. I also think when you're looking at repetition, you can start to see where somebody's asking the same question again and again and again. They're obviously not getting the right answer. They're obviously frustrated. So I think these are the kind of points to look for. It's interesting because, and I haven't seen, I'll be interested to know if any of your guests actually, Neil, or if you've heard of this. I'm interested to see how roles are shifting in organizations, to see if people are actually training the models more and training the bots more, and people's roles are shifting, so they're doing more of that work. Have you seen much of that?
No, I'm hearing a lot of stories and use cases of how the two work together and the passing off and all these great places that we need to get to, but no concrete examples yet of how that works.
Right.
And because everyone's kind of saying, it work best when they work together.
Yeah.
Think of it as your co-pilot. Or we've heard all of those sales pitches, but I think maybe we're a little bit early on yet to hear those concrete examples.
Maybe we are, yeah. And to hear how organizations are kind of shaping themselves and shifting to accommodate and really integrate sort of the bots and training them into part of the structure. Maybe we're a bit early. When we talk this time next year, let's see what we've got.
And you've also spoken in the past about the danger of almost creating a reality privilege where only premium customers get that human support. So how can brands, do you think, better build fairer systems that still scale?
We keep seeing it all the time, right? And I think just to explain the reality privilege, from the way I think about it is, we see more and more self-service, more and more kind of automated transactions because they're cheaper. We've all been through, it's more cost efficient to be able to do that. Whereas if you buy a membership, in its simplest term, if you've bought a membership, you'll get access to a human, you'll get your 24/7 concierge, you'll get all of these, kind of privileges that you wouldn't get if you don't subscribe to our model or be a VIC, a very important customer that's, spend is considerably higher than others. I think it's those kind of, it sits within this loyalty programs, I think, and understanding, is that somebody a platinum tier subscriber versus they're not subscribed at all. But what that does is create this two-tier service. And I think, it's fine if we're a loyal customer. Loyalty needs to be rewarded. Is loyalty going to be rewarded with a human? Maybe. Great. Where we see the clearest reality privilege is this difference between somebody who is kind of spending enough or a valued enough customer to be able to have access to a human when they need it, as opposed to one that gets put in these cul-de-sacs. They're not allowed to speak to a human. They just have to deal with everything themselves or only have the bots to deal with. And I think what we see there is that's fine to a certain extent and with low transactional calls, but it goes back to what we were saying before. You've still got to build a human into the system at some point and allow people to be able to connect. And we see increasingly like subscription models are absolutely on the rise with brands, rethinking of loyalty. I mean, there's a very famous supermarket in the UK, right, that is in the press often for how they run their own loyalty card service. And that in itself sort of is an example of this, that if you're a member of that special club, you get all sorts of privileges that otherwise you don't get if you're not a member of that club. But that involves, obviously, there's a trade-off. You're giving your data, you're giving you're giving something over to be a member of that club so that they can keep personalizing. And I think that this is what we start to see that with customer experience as well. And I think that we have to build for solving these complex issues. We can't just leave people only to have these automated transactional experiences. And I think my fear is that unless you're a member of these clubs or these subscription services, or you've given off all your data, then you don't get any help at all and you don't get anything. And I'm seeing that creep in more and more into experiences. If you don't sign up for our subscription list, if you don't give us your date of birth, if you don't give us your phone number, then you can't have the discount, then you can't have it gets a bit cynical.
Yeah.
My worry is that where that's really important, if you think about essential services, then if you're applying that kind of thinking to essential services, it could have ramifications that I think probably, like I say, are a bit cynical, and you really wouldn't want that to happen. So again, I think it's about taking care of your loyal customers, of course, but also thinking about those more vulnerable customers, or about those that don't fit into that bucket, and making sure that everybody ultimately gets the service that they need.
Yeah, don't get me started on that 2-tier pricing system in supermarkets. Yeah. There's a whole episode for another day there.
It is, but we're seeing it everywhere with everything, right? It's like they just thought, okay, well, this is the subscription model. This is how we get the data.
Yeah. This
is how we can get people to spend more. And you could see how people would want to do that, because personalized transactions, we see they increase customer spend by like 75% or something. There are huge incentive and gains to be made by brands who personalize, but in order to personalize, they need the data. In order to get the data, they need something to be able to do that. And I think loyalty, subscription, these two-tiered services are the way that they do that. So yes, for us as consumers, we know that there are benefits to that, but the people who really benefit are going to be the organizations, because we see such an uplift in spend.
Yeah, 100% with you. And some number crunchers out there will automatically also assume that voice AI is just about reducing call center costs. Some will reduce headcount to pay for the technology. And I always think that they're completely missing the point here. The magic here only happens when you have that human in the loop. And that is a phrase that I'm hearing a lot this year as well. But do you have any examples of how it can actually increase customer satisfaction and loyalty? Because I think sometimes we focus on the wrong ROI, but what are you seeing here?
I haven't seen any stats come through as yet. I think naturally it would be logical to think that we're going to see it increase. We're going to start seeing it increase because of resolution, all about the resolution. So I think that I'll have to, do you know what? I'm going to dig some stats out and come back to you on that.
Yeah.
Because I am sure that there must be some research somewhere. I'll probably just ask Perplexity. And I'll come back to you with a very detailed PDF and probably a podcast about it. The notebook has done for me. I'm sure we're going to start seeing those increase in satisfaction. I mean, we know that it can take, we see typically with customers, we see, we've got a couple of customers like UK Universidad and customers like this internationally who have got significant call containment and contact reduction because of using bots. We're talking above 60%, above 70%, massive increases in efficiency, and they don't appear to have had any diminishing impact on CX and on any of the CSAT or NPS scores. But I'd be really interested to see a large study on it, to see actually, now that they've been embedded for a while, what are the impacts? Are they working? Are we seeing CSAT improving? Because I would expect to see a CSAT improvement overall.
And another problem we've got to highlight today from a technical point of view is things like disconnected systems, legacy tech, technical debt, still huge problems. And in everywhere from airports and airlines, they're probably the best example of that. Many areas of that industry are still running on tech from the 60s. So how should businesses approach integrating voice AI with other parts of that customer journey to ensure that consistent communication? Anything you're seeing around there?
You see, this is where I could just go full sales pitch for Twilio. Because this is exactly what Twilio does. Yeah. We plug into those existing legacy systems, so that voice AI is a perfect example. And we have this really neat product called Conversation Relay that does this too. You can bring your own LLM to it, plugs into your system, and literally you can plug into that legacy system, and already you then get that uplift, right? And you can just start to use it. I think those days of rip and replace are over. People shouldn't. We've been through so many decades of people thinking they have to rip everything out. They don't. There are so many smart tools now. I would tell you that others are available, but I do work for Twilio, so I'm going to say Twilio. They plug in. I remember a solution engineer saying to me once, the brilliant thing to think about these API-based tools is that they take the legacy infrastructure and they just turn it up to make sure that it's connected and it works together. And I think that's the benefit of using this more of an API approach rather than a platform approach. We're also seeing, and we again in the State of Customer Engagement report that we did, we heard that 96% of customers are planning to build their own custom CX tools because they can now. And I think a lot of that is driven by what you're talking about, these legacy systems that are in place. CDPs are the same, right? Because getting data is still often in many, many, many places across an organization. And the most important thing for using AI is to have the data. So you need to be able to get that data all in one place to really take advantage of the benefits of AI tools, voice AI, personalization AI, whatever, marketing AI, whatever it might be. So I think it's about using the smart tools that plug into your existing infrastructure to be able to give you either pin it together and pull it all together, or give you access to that data that's in so many different silos so that it becomes really actionable and you can start using it to make the most of the tools that are available now.
And I suspect for many people listening, hearing about voice AI, learning more about it today, maybe getting curious, wondering where they should start. I'd love to give those people a valuable takeaway. So if their brand is just starting to explore voice AI, what should they be focusing on first, just to ensure it improves services rather than further complicate them?
There are actually some brilliant vendors out there that do it. Again, you can experiment with Twilio, you can do that, but there are also brilliant companies like Poly AI and Boost AI, and they sit within our ISV ecosystem, and they're so easy to get started. You can just within a very short space of time, you can experiment, you get started. I think the advantage as well of sort of selecting a partner that you can use to do that with is they've got all the experience of having built it, seen what other customers have done, and can advise you as well when you do it. There are some people that are brave enough just to go ahead and experiment with themselves, but I think make use of the great tools that are already out there. The other thing is we're seeing lots of existing platforms and lots of existing vendors in all sorts of different spaces, whether it be, CRM providers or contact center providers, whatever it would be, they're building these tools in. So again, I think it's about taking advantage of the tools that are out there. The important thing is just to make sure you test so that it's working for you. And I think that testing process can't be underestimated. You've got to make sure that the tools that you're using and the voice AI that you're using is right for your business. For example, we have partners within our ecosystem that specialize in hospitality and F&B, because the language is different. So therefore you can bring a voice AI that really specializes in that. We'll have others that specialize in other areas in different language. I'm sure that there are plenty of education specific ones, or that's the interesting thing that we're seeing. If you're selling cars, then potentially there's a voice AI that will be suitable for that too. So I think it's about doing the research, picking a partner, testing it, and making sure that you're getting the results. You've really got to pay attention to the details. Don't just plug something in and leave it to its own devices. Pay attention to what's going on. And I think that then you start to reap the rewards. But there are some cool tools out there. You and I could probably go ahead after this, Neil, and create a fantastic bot that we could release to the world in a Jarvis Cocker bot. We could do that. We could just release it to the world and see what happens. But really smart tools out there. Companies are making it easy for people to be able to innovate.
I absolutely love it. And I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to sit back down with me today. Share your invaluable insights around voice AI, but in a language that everyone can understand. And before I let you go, though, I'm going to ask you to leave one final gift. I always ask my guests to leave a song for our Spotify playlist. We've got everything on there from Mozart to pirate metal. It's quite an eclectic mix, but what would you like to leave us with and why?
Pirate metal? Never heard of pirate metal. Okay, so in my spare time, I am a flamenco dancer. And I do like a bit of flamenco. And I thought I would leave you with the all-time great flamenco guitarist, Paco de Lucia, and a song that possibly people would have heard, but it just encapsulates the summer. It's Entre dos Aguas. And if you hear the start of it, you may have heard it before. I think it was in Vicky Cristina Barcelona or something. But for me, we're at the start of the summer now, and it just encapsulates the summer. So we can put that on your Spotify list. People can listen to it. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can just lie back and imagine you're in some gorgeous southern Spain or Balearic setting with the wind blowing in your face and, the sun gently beating down on you.
Oh, wow. What an amazing choice. A perfect fit for our eclectic mix there. So I'm going to get that added straight away. I'm going to check that out in a moment as well. But before I let you go, for anyone listening, wanting to find out more about the report that you referenced or voice AI, how you might be able to help with Twilio or any developments there, where would you like to point everyone?
Go to twilio.com. We have got the most fantastic blog on twilio.com. that has all sorts of insights from experts. Again, the benefit of Twilio is we have got brilliant people that work for the company who are developing these tools all the time, and they write about it. They're sharers, so go on the Twilio blog. You'll see all sorts of great stuff there. We also have some really good YouTube channels. So one of our colleagues, Alex Goldman, subscribe to Alex because he talks about all the releases that are coming out. Again, brilliant. Go there. State of customer engagement. There'll be a link on the website, twilio.com. I would urge you to download it. There's great insights in there as to how customers are feeling about AI and personalization and engagement. So, yeah, Twilio.com is a great resource. The blog is fantastic. I definitely point you to the YouTube channel as well. You can just do a lot of that self-education. And it's also got really handy ways for you to get started. So if you do want to build your own voice AI bot, the answer will be there. You can go ahead and do it.
Oh, well, I will link to everything you mentioned now. I'll also try and embed one of the videos, link to the blog, etc. And I think when we're talking about things like voice AI, it often can feel incredibly complex, daunting, or even overwhelming. And at a time where we're talking about ROI and solving real problems, it was great to hear more about not just the technology, but balancing things like automation and empathy, how it can strengthen brand loyalty and joining up customer touch points. These are the things that businesses are talking about and wanting to find the answers to. So thank you for shining a light on this today. Pleasure as always.
Good to talk to you, Neil.
So how do brands build smarter customer experiences without sacrificing empathy? Sam Richardson's insights today offered a clear path forward, one where voice AI enhances services rather than replace them. From recognising when to hand off to a human employee, to navigating legacy infrastructure with API-driven tools, I think we heard today that progress doesn't require a teardown, merely demands intention, testing, understanding, empathy. And I think we also tackled a growing concern that we don't talk about enough, which is around access. Because Sam cautioned against building a system where only subscribers or premium users get help from real people and everyone else is just dumped to some AI bot. Instead, she's calling for a more inclusive design that blends automation with accountability and ultimately ensures everyone, not just the most valuable customers, feel that their voice is heard. So as voice AI matures, the opportunity is wide open for those who see it as more than just a cost cutter. Got to think bigger than that. It's actually a chance to create real-time, human-like human-like interactions that are fast, effective, and emotionally intelligent. So for your brand, are you building AI that truly listens? Or are you guilty of automating for the sake of it? And what are you going to do next? Please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. We'll be back again tomorrow with another guest, but thank you for listening today. And I'll speak with you all again very soon. Bye for now.